Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Schaeferts and Dean Business Builder Speaker Series. My name is Doug Dean. I'm the owner and managing partner of Schaeferts and Dean. The Business Builder Speaker Series was an idea that came out of the COVID days back starting in 2020. When we couldn't get together in person, we said, let's get together virtually on Zoom. We'll bring in an industry expert on a topic that we think is important and valuable to real estate agents that will help you grow your business. So get some good tips and tricks from industry experts to help you. I want to thank you for joining us, for sharing your time with us. We realize that you're busy and we appreciate you joining us and giving your time. To make the most of your time, we do encourage you to ask questions. It's an interactive presentation, and the more you ask, the more that you'll learn. You can also, if you're bashful and don't want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to participate using the chat box. Rob, I'll monitor the chat box, and if we get any chats, I'll throw them out to you. We encourage you to stay connected with us. We're on all the major socials, and all the handles are listed here. Additionally, we record our Business Builder Speaker Series. We save them on our YouTube channel, and we link to them on our website under the Resource tab. If you go to schaeferts-dean.com under Resources, you'll find a tab for Business Builder, and I believe our library is now at something close to 45 videos on all topics that are helpful to real estate agents. In case you missed it, here's a list of our speakers for the first 4 months of the year. You'll find these and all the prior year speakers on our website in the Business Builder Speaker Series section. Mark your calendar. Join us next month. Our next Business Builder will be June 17th at 10 a.m. We do these the third Wednesday every month at 10 a.m. Our guest next month is Scott Trowbridge with Atlanta Basement Systems. How to go from foundation fears to closing cheers. We're going to talk about groundwater intrusion, structural foundation issues, and what can be remedied and what's more difficult to remedy. But information is power, and the more you understand about common foundation issues, you'll know the best way to proceed. I'm delighted this month to welcome Rob Simmons, with president and owner of Septic Roofer in the Marietta Woodstock area, and I love his title. He's obviously got a good sense of humor. Flesh out the unknown, mastering septic systems and real estate. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob. Take it away.
Boy, I really appreciate you guys having me here today. And I'm going to take just a moment here and appreciate that this is not live TV. They are going to edit this later. I normally I give this presentation in front of big groups of people, and it makes me strangely more nervous to give it in front of a video camera than 100 beating hearts and breathing individuals. And so I just appreciate, like I said, maybe I'll stumble on my words, but hey, we can catch it in post. All right, let's see if I can't share my screen over here. Do you see the flush the fear thing?
Um,
Let me hop back over here to Zoom and make sure I'm still sharing my.
Forgive me, did you see my slides as I was clicking through? I thought I was sharing my screen.
Yes, I saw yours.
Great.
I've just sent a
And
request to share mine.
I've clicked allow, so yours should pop up here momentarily. Try it again, Rob. I'm not seeing it, but it could be just on my end. I didn't see mine
I
either.
got it. Here we go. Hey,
Looks great.
cool. All right, do you guys see my PowerPoint now?
Sure do. You're doing great, Rob. Take it away.
Fantastic. Okay. So we call this one when I'm standing in front of people, we call it flush the fear. And I love um, any interpretation of that. I love to talk about how septic is, because there is so much ignorance and fear in the industry, it can be something that agents and brokers and clients all can have a reluctance to embrace. But I don't want anybody to be scared. There's no reason that anybody should really consider a house that's on septic is any inferior or any worse than any worse than any other house. I promise you. And I've picked this up over an entire career of working on people's septic tanks. I've been doing septic tank work as my own boss for a little over 20 years. My son uh, I was not even born yet when I first encountered my first septic tank, and now he's 20 years old and he's getting ready to become licensed in the state of Georgia. He's been helping me for years and years. We kind of do it all in terms of septic tank work. We certainly maintain people's septic tanks, but we also do an awful lot of inspecting of septic tanks as part of a real estate process. There's my wife. You can see she handles the office stuff, business partners, and people that have been part of the team for years and years, folks that have really dedicated their careers to learning how to make people's septic tanks work the way that they ought to. It's not a question of are septic tanks good or septic tanks functional. In the state of Georgia, it's a matter of how do people use their septic tanks? What do they do with their septic tanks? Do they maintain their septic tank? Do they pay any attention to it at all? And so we've assembled just an entire career's worth of experience with septic systems. And I want to share some of the things that I've picked up and some of the products that we've developed that are really there to help out the agent have a smooth transition through the offer, through the acceptance, through due diligence, through closing. I don't want there to be any surprises at all. And so I want to talk about just what I picked up along the way. So one of the statistics that it's not a surprise to me. I go to people's septic tanks every day, but this is one that tends to get a lot of oohs and ahs out of the crowd. I usually say, like, how many septic tanks? What's the percentage? What's the pie look like with the number of homes that are on septic versus on sewer? And it's a little less than 40%, a little more than a third. And so I would ask you guys, has any of you that are on this call that's an agent, have you ever had a client tell you that they don't want to look at a house that's on septic? Cool. I usually, if I'm standing in a room with 20 or 30 people, they're really not, oh yeah, boy, I've got a client, he or she said that they are never having a house on septic. And I really want for agents to have one tool in their back pocket to just simply respond to about that when they hear that objection, because I know you got one for everything else. They love the house, but they'd never have one on a cul-de-sac. I'm sure there's something you might say about that, right? If they say I've never had a house on septic, I've never considered, I don't want a house on septic, so many of those objections can be at least continued into a separate conversation by saying, well, I learned a lot about septic this year. I met a guy that's a septic expert. He taught me a lot of the things that are important to know as a homeowner. And now, frankly, my level of comfort with septic systems has gone up quite a bit. And so I tell you, it's if you don't have a guy, it can be intimidating. But if you got a guy the way I do, it's really no different than a house that's on sewers. Frankly, it's a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay a bill every month. Wow, that objection seems much smaller when you have anything in the world to say about it other than, like, all right, well, we'll go on to the next one. This one's on septic. So, anybody here ever heard of how a septic system works? Ever seen one in real life? Doug, have you ever had an experience by seeing a septic tank?
I'll be honest, I have a morbid curiosity. I've seen them going in, so I can picture a rectangular concrete tank with a couple of drain line arms going out of it, but never really seen inside of it. I don't know if it's more than just a concrete box with drain lines coming out.
Well, you have really captured the essence of it. Do you know what the septic tank does?
Just biological breakdown of waste, but I don't know exactly how or if there's more to the magic than that.
Absolutely. Well, you got it right. So the septic tank is a big, usually concrete box. It's designed to be watertight. Everything that goes down the wastewater plumbing in the home is supposed to enter the septic tank, but that is not the last stop for any of the water. That is a detention area for the solids that go down the drain along with the liquid. But the purpose of a septic tank, and more importantly, a septic system, is to make all of the water that you use inside the house, or we would call domestically, make all of that domestically consumed water absorb into the soil on that property. And so, as opposed to if your home was connected or the home you're showing or selling is on a sewer system, everything that goes down the drain, water and solid, all connects into one pipe, goes out to the street, get connects with everybody else's pipes, and then all that wastewater is communicated to the wastewater treatment facility, usually a municipal facility. And then it's returned to usually the water table via a river. And one of the funny things that we always say, if you ever spend any time on the river, is you're always down water or downstream from somebody's wastewater return. That's just a fact. It's cleaned, but it's always returned back to a natural water system. And that's exactly what happens with a septic tank and a septic system. Septic tank holds all the solid, the human waste, the solid tissue paper, any garbage that gets thrown down there, although that's not really the best idea. But as you articulated, there's a series of pipes that come off the back. Those snake all the way around certain parts of the yard, and they allow the water that goes through the septic system to be just returned to the soil. And there's all kind of things as an installer and as a repair person that you need to know about how you install in relationship to soil types, to water types, to landscaping features. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but all the septic system is doing on your property is essentially working like that same municipal wastewater treatment facility. It is doing something with the solid material, allowing the water to go out. Here's a diagram that articulates kind of what that looks like as a cross view. You've got that pipe right here. Can you see my mouse moving?
I do.
Cool. You can see that the pipe connects all the wastewater plumbing, enters the septic tank right here. Sometimes there's a little concrete box, sometimes there's a pump station, but the same thing happens with all this wastewater. It gets distributed to a series of pipes in the yard where it percolates down, is cleaned through both the soil and bacterial processes, and then is returned to the water table. And so, as you might be thinking, like I was thinking immediately, like, you mean the same water table that people drink off of if they have a well? Yes, the same water table that people drink off of if they have a well, which is a very important reason why septic systems have to be installed according to guidelines and laws, because you do not want to contaminate the surface water, you do not want to contaminate the groundwater. And so it's imperative that the septic tank here be functional. It's got the components working. It's important that you have it maintained every couple of years. Doug was sharing with me an anecdote that he had heard about his time growing up in a home that has a septic system, which is that the common perception was that you don't pump a septic tank out as maintenance. It breaks everything down, and you only call if there's a problem. Unfortunately, for virtually everyone that's ever called me, when they waited until there's a problem, guess why I went out there to diagnose a problem? Because that's not how septic systems are to be maintained. You're supposed to have it pumped out every couple of years. The state recommends every 3 to 5, but it is uncommon to have a septic system maintained that religiously in the South, and there's a big reason for that. In the north part of the United States, if you've ever lived there or had any experience, you'll know that it gets what up there? Cold, really, really cold. It'll freeze the ground several feet thick in some parts of the country, in some parts of the year. And if you have a septic tank problem, or if you haven't maintained it and the ground is frozen thick, you're going to have to wait until the spring thaw to get into that septic tank. And it could be contaminated groundwater for a long time before anybody can do anything about that. And so in those parts of the countries, they have what's called a pump mandate, where the government will send you a fine if you don't have your septic tank pumped out, and you can prove it every couple of years. That doesn't happen in the South. The ground doesn't freeze, and there's nobody telling you what to do with your septic system. You can, as long as you're not running the water down the hill into somebody else's property, you can do what you want to with your septic system, have it work, have it not work. be a problem, be no problem at all, and it's only you that's going to be concerned about it as far as the government's going to be concerned. And so, as a practice, that's what happens. People, I don't mean to be like negative or scary or anything, but when the phone rings, it is very regularly not saying someone saying like, "Boy, it's been a couple years. I need to have that septic tank pumped out. What do you charge?" Normally, it's, "Oh man, I don't think about my septic tank ever, never have. Probably wasn't going to until I flushed the toilet today and it didn't flush. The toilets got real slow or water came up in the bathtub next to the toilet." You guys don't mind? I'm going to share with you a video that I personally made a couple years ago, and that's why I'm sharing it because I'm very proud of it. But it shows how a septic system works. And I'm going to let it play here so that I can kind of talk over it a little bit. Did it have to be yellow?
Well, I don't know if it's color coded, but
It's color coded. So the yellow is just so it shows up in the camera. The blue is the stuff that goes down the toilet that is heavier than water, more dense, and it sinks to the bottom. And that is transmission fluid because it floats.
I don't see it playing yet. Is it not
Uh-oh.
playing? Okay.
Oh, it is playing, but it might not be carrying over to your screen. Let me see if I
Ah,
can share it. Hold on, let me share this other screen real quick. I'm sorry about that. It's another screen entirely. Let me share that.
there we go. Well,
Okay.
I saw it there for a moment.
Is it there now?
Uh, Here we go. Liquid effluent fills the septic tank.
So that black thing on the right-hand side, that represents the series of pipes in the yard where the water goes back down to the water table. And what I'm demonstrating for you with this video is how the septic tank keeps solid inside of it, retains it, but lets the water out. So you've
Okay.
got the yellow, that's the water. You've got the blue, that's the solid, and then red, which is the crust, anything that's lighter than water, toilet paper, grease, stuff that floats on top. This thing right here, this plastic thing that's keeping the red in is what's called the baffle or the outlet baffle. And you can see how there's red right here, but none right here. This is a functioning septic system. More water is going to come in. And even with all of this crust and all this sludge at the bottom, water is only able to get out and nothing else. But one of the most common things to break on septic systems is that baffle right there that I was just showing you, that thing that was keeping the red in. And what happens is when that's gone, in the example that I'm trying to show you guys, what happens is all of that stuff that's supposed to be kept inside the septic tank, all of that solid material leaves and goes out to the drain field where it can clog up the pipes and clog up the pores of the soil. Are we back to Ridex now?
Yes, we are. We're at the
Okay.
Red X screen.
You guys have any
Real
questions about
quickly,
how a septic tank works yet? I'll go into more of this stuff, but I want to kind of cover some of the high level stuff before we get nitty and gritty. Any questions?
real, real quickly before we move on to the Red X one,
Mhm.
um, I picture the drain line being large black corrugated plastic pipes, but I don't know how many. Are there just basically like two long arms, or is there a whole field of T's and arms coming off?
That is a great question. And both answers that you just provided me might be true depending on what the situation looks like. There are several different types of drain field which are permitted in the state of Georgia. There are different lengths and different reductions that you're permitted for different types. But what you just described to me would be what is the most common type of drain field that you would see installed prior to 10 years ago. It's called aggregate, and what you have is a trench that's dug in the yard, 36 inches wide. It's filled up with gravel. There's a 4 inch, not huge, but 4 inch diameter corrugated pipe with holes in the bottom that's encapsulated in that gravel. And so once the septic tank here has separated the solids out, just the water goes into that corrugated pipe. It falls down out of the pipe into the gravel that surrounds it and stays in the gravel until the soil can absorb it. The amount of drain field that you have to have and the size septic tank you have to have is prescribed by the state. Any idea what makes them decide on how much you have to have? Do you know what they use as a factor?
I'm going to use a couple of things. One is the number of toilets in the house is going to dictate the size of the tank. The second is going to be the permeability of the soil. I always hear about new construction with perk tests and how well the soil will absorb the water. I assume the grade of the land might come into play if it's flat or if it's slanted. Um, those are the first three I can think of. What else might come into play?
There are really only two factors that go into deciding how much drain field you're going to have. The other things you just said, the topography will decide where it is, but there are two factors that decide how much. The number one thing that they're looking at is the number of bedrooms in the house. They don't care how many bathrooms you have. They don't care how many toilets. People don't live on toilets or in bathrooms. The number of people is decided by how many bedrooms you have. And the permeability of the soil. What kind of soil is it? And so almost every county is now requiring a soil classification prior to any repair permit or installation permit to be issued. But it is almost universally the number of bedrooms that decide truly how much drain field you have in Georgia. And the law or the rule is that you're to have 100 foot of pipe and gravel, which is what I described to you, as a traditional drain field per bedroom. So a 5 bedroom house have 500 foot, a 3 bedroom house have 300 foot. That being said, what you can see here is a representation. It's not to scale, but this is a representation of the more modern style of drain field that pretty much everybody's installing in Georgia right now. You may have heard it referred to as infiltrator. You may have heard it referred to as chamber drain field. Both are appropriate for this product. But what this thing does right here is, as opposed to a small-ish diameter pipe, 4 inches, being in a big bed of gravel, the chamber replaces the gravel completely. You dig the same 36-inch wide trench, but you just lay that product on the surface of the earth. Once the septic tank has retained the solids and let the water go into it, this is where it becomes a series of like T's and fittings and stuff. Whereas the old aggregate drain field would go for 100 foot as pipe and gravel, and then it would have a very rudimentary kind of crossover relief pipe, step down, whatever you want to call it, to the next trench, which would be installed along the lines of topography. The trenches that you install for septic are as dead level as you can get them, within an inch per 100 feet. And so you never install into a hill, it would make it too deep. You always install across a topographical band so that you're installing level. But once you get to the end of however much of that product you've got in the ground, it then uses fittings and PVC to step down to the next trench that you've got in the ground, so that at the end of it, you've got the amount that you're supposed to. And for a product like chamber, as I described it to you, you might be thinking like, well, without all that gravel and stuff in the way, it might even work better. It does work better. It allows the ground to absorb the water even more efficiently than your older styles. And as a result, the state gives you a reduction. So whenever we do some funny math, whenever we do a presentation to somebody about, hey, we need to replace your drain field, we always say, it's a 3 bedroom house. You're required to have 300 foot, but we're going to use chamber. We get a 1/3 reduction. It's going to be 195 feet or 210 feet. So it looks like I'm trying to do math when I'm just telling you how the state documents that stuff so that I can give you an accurate price. And so with that drain field that you've got there, you've got several hundred feet in the yard. You've got several different options in terms of products that you might have. And so everything that you're imagining could be a possibility. It could be very straightforward. It could look very complicated in the ground. And the less restrictive, or the more restrictive, the less permeable the soil is, the more tricky your drain field is going to look. There are systems in Georgia that I am approved to install that not everybody is, that are called alternative systems, which could be very complicated pipes and delicate tubes and sand beds and stuff that I don't ever really like to start a conversation with, because it's very expensive to do an alternative system. But again, I'm licensed to do it in Georgia. And so pretty much any lot that you would want to build on, if it's not underwater, I can get septic on it.
Okay.
So has anyone ever heard of the brand Ridex?
I've heard the name. I've seen, advertisements for it. I don't know exactly what it is.
Great. I think it's very funny because again, I wrote it, so I'm my own biggest fan. I have a very funny presentation that I like to give, where in which I have candles that I set up on the desk and I light them. I'm not going to do it right now for this, but you can see what that looks like. I light them, and I usually have an agent walk to the back of the room and I say, I want you to dim the lights for me because I'm going to read you my love letter to Ridex. And so I have them dim the lights, and I have them I light the candle and then I wait for it to set up for just a little bit. And then I, by candlelight, lovingly and gently read the back of the Ridex bottle so I can describe to you what it is and what it does. And what the back of the Ridex bottle says is that Ridex contains a proprietary blend of both chemicals and enzymes that are designed to, with frequent pumping, reduce the number of backups that you have from your septic tank into your home. Wow, that sounds fancy. That sounds like something I would want. And the longer I can kind of drag this out and be entertaining with the agents, the more the candle will melt down and do what it is that I want it to do to demonstrate what Ridex does. I can open up a septic tank and and the reason I do this Ridex thing is because everyone's always asking this. Everyone's always heard of Ridex. Someone's always saying like, man, I see that at the grocery store. Should I be throwing that down my septic tank? The answer is no. You should not throw that down your septic tank. When I open one up, I can usually tell if someone's been using Ridex because the septic tank isn't doing what the septic tank should be doing. It is working against itself. When you flush the Ridex down the toilet, it does. It has a proprietary blend of chemicals and enzymes which do break down the solid content in your septic tank. And then what happens is it converts it to like a kind of an oatmeal slurry that's all flopped up in the water. And as you run more water through it, it picks up those solid contaminants and carries them out to that sensitive, delicate, hard to access series of pipes in your yard that is the drain field. And it works just like the flame does to the candle. When the flame heats up the wax at the very top of the candle, it makes the wax leave the top of the candle. It leaves and it goes down the candle to the table. And if you keep doing that, what you end up having is a mess. The flame did not destroy the wax. It did not deteriorate it. It just moved it. And it might be moved it to an inconvenient place. If you've ever had a candle leak onto your carpet, you wish it hadn't. Well, that's what you're going to wish you hadn't happened to your drain field after that Ridex moves all that solid material that you're supposed to have pumped out every couple of years out to that series of pipes where you've got no access at all. And so I definitely tell people that if you want to have a healthy septic system, that you should not be using products like Ridex. And so there is something that I do, and I do it primarily for buyers of septic tanks, and or buyers of homes. And we're going to talk about something that, Doug, you kind of pointed out that is definitely top of the mind for both buyers and sellers of the septic systems. If you are getting ready to buy, or if you're representing somebody that is getting ready to buy a home that's on a septic system, you have got to have a septic inspection done. People don't pay attention to their septic tanks. There are things that can cause hazard to your family. There are things that can cause hazard to your yard. There are things that can cause hazard to your community. There's things that cause hazard to your pocketbook. There are definitely ways to get sued if you are a seller and you disguise or hide a problem with your septic system, as everybody can probably imagine. But it's literally shocking to me how many people buy and sell homes and never consider the septic inspection at all. And it is not my joy in life, although it is my duty to throw an agent under the bus every time I catch them doing this, because I don't like it when I go to someone's house that calls me and they say, Rob, I've got a crisis with my septic system. I just moved in a week ago. I haven't even lived here a full week. I just started mopping the floors and running all the wash machines, and now it's all backed up. And I guess I'm on a septic tank. I don't know. Can you come give me a hand? And I come out and I find the septic tank and I dig them up and I show them what's going on. And I say, didn't you guys have a septic inspection? No. Didn't anyone mention to you you should have a septic inspection? No. What did your agent do for you if they didn't guide you through the process of getting the things that you need to have inspected? Call them on the phone and kind of have that conversation with them because they're the only person that you should have been able to rely on to help you with this. And if they didn't even mention it, it's kind of on them. So I definitely want to be everyone's helper. There are things, and there. Can you guys see that screen with the big gaping hole right in the middle of it right now?
I sure do, with the green ovals with the
Huh?
various words in it.
Can you
And I
tell
may
what that
be,
is
yeah,
over the guy's left shoulder there, that big hole in the ground?
yes, the age deterioration, neglect, overuse, root intrusion,
No,
and improper.
the picture of the hole in the ground.
It's the I see that it's kind of covered up by the green
Yeah.
ovals, but I can tell there's a hole.
That is a picture that I took of a septic tank that's the very most common style that was installed in the 70s and 80s that doesn't have any support structure to these huge concrete lids. And someone luckily was not standing on top of this when it happened, but it caved in while they were asleep. And when they woke up the next morning, they came out to dirt and leaves and a gigantic hole in their yard that anybody could have been standing over at the time. And so there are more than just the reasons that you see behind you or over that guy's shoulder, the age, neglect, overuse, root intrusion, and proper design. There is inherent flaws in the way that so many of the septic systems, um, all those things together, the neglect, the age, the improper, like all those things are kind of working against each other in some situations. And you wouldn't want to be the owner of a septic system that was failing or suffering from any of those things. You would definitely want to pay attention if you have a septic tank at your home or if you're just walking around a property. These are things that as an agent you can start to pay attention to even before you have the septic inspection done. As soon as you show the house, you can look for really obvious lush green strips of grass. And you'll see that more right now because of how dry it's been, where the drain field is, the water's coming up more and more. You can see, like I just showed you, sunken or wet areas in the yard. One thing that people don't really associate with the septic or sewer, but they ought to, is damage to the floors or the walls in the bathroom, particularly if you can see that up underneath in the crawl space or from a basement. That stuff didn't just get damaged accidentally. It probably didn't just get damaged one time. It probably is something that's been ongoing and something that they not necessarily want you to know about. If they can't, don't, you ask them, it's like, well, have you ever seen the septic tank? Yeah. And you know anything about it? Have you had it pumped out? If they don't know anything about it, that's definitely a red flag. Okay, so let me talk to you about the buyer's septic inspection. What we offer specifically as a product, pretty much for buyers. I'm going to talk about sellers too, but the first thing that we always do as part of a septic inspection is get a hold of that map that you see there that the county health department usually has on file for every property that has septic. And this is public record. Anybody in the world can call any health department in Georgia and say, hey, give me what you got for 3240 Lassiter Road in Cobb County. And if they say, oh, we've got nothing, well, then that's a good indication that that property doesn't have a septic tank. If they say, yes, we'll go ahead and send that over to you, it's a pretty good indication that that property does have a septic tank. And so one thing that we do for all of anybody that we know, not just people that have hired us, not just, clients, customers, whatever, we know everybody at every health department. I'm going to make sure you have my phone number before you get out of here. If you're looking at a house and you just want to know if it's on septic, I can help you with that. I don't charge anything. If there's a map on file, I'll just send an email, make a quick phone call, get that, send it to you. I want to be your resource for anything having to do with septic. And this is such a big part of what we do that I want everyone to be able to have these maps. And so we make it just even easier than having to call the health department. We'll do it for you. We'll email it over to you. But when I'm standing on site doing the preliminary septic inspection, I want to have that in my hand because I want to tell you what size is the septic tank, how much drain field do you have in the yard, what's it made out of, how deep is it, where are you going to want to put the pool, where do you not want to put the pool. I don't know that I have a slide for this. If I do, I'll harp on it even more. But I help people. It's not my favorite thing to do because it doesn't generally make me any money. But I definitely discharge or close out a lot of the septic inspections that people send me as an administrative thing before I even really go out, because the first thing I do is I compare the map that's on file there. It'll tell me how many bedrooms is in this house. And if that's not how many bedrooms they're trying to sell the house for, don't even call me out and pay me money until you've had this conversation with them, because the what the county sends me is correct. If it says it's a three-bedroom house and they're trying to sell it as a six-bedroom house, they're wrong. It is not a six-bedroom house. It's a three-bedroom house. And until you rectify that, you're either adding more septic or replacing septic or reducing your listing to a three-bedroom house. You are going to get sued for trying to sell that as a six-bedroom house. And I catch somebody doing it every week. Every week I pull a map and I show somebody how this four-bedroom house that they're trying to buy is actually a four-bedroom house. It's not a six-bedroom house. And so before I even come out and charge you for doing a septic inspection, I'm going to send you the copy of the map and say, like, is this what you think you're buying? Because if not, you need to have a big conversation with these people, because I just, I don't know. I have to assume a six-bedroom house would retail for more than a three-bedroom house. I think that's a fair thing to say. I think that's true. And so if they're trying to sell you three more bedrooms than they actually have the legal right to sell you, then that's something you should be aware of before it becomes your problem, because this happens a lot too. Oh, I didn't know. I bought the house as a six-bedroom house. Well, that's your problem, man. That's not, that really is something that you should have done your homework on. We're doing ours. Anybody could tell you the answer to this. It's public record. And so, anybody, do you have any questions about that?
Rob, I've got a comment and a question. The comment is we had a swimming pool installed a few years ago, and before we could begin construction, the pool company asked me to get a copy of the septic record. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take weeks. I don't know. I might have to file a Freedom of Information Act request. How do I get it? And they said, no, just call the county public health department. And I kind of Googled it up. I called and I need a septic report for this address. No problem. What's your email address? I'll email it to you. I was stunned at how easy it was to get, and it looks exactly like what you've got on screen. The other interesting thing when I got it was that it showed the location of the tank and the drain field in relation to the house on a nice little grid sketch at the bottom. But it also showed a location of a backup or secondary drain field if the original one were to ever fail. And I thought, I never considered that septic can fail. And I thought if it failed, you just dig it up and put the new one there. But according to the sketch, no, the other side of the house is where the backup drain field would go if the primary failed. The other thing is when they were installing the pool, they're doing a lot of heavy earth moving equipment, and they drove a PVC pipe in the ground, the center of the tank, and kind of lined out the area not to drive over. That's where the tank is, so they could go around it. So hopefully they didn't crush lines, but they're 36 inches deep in gravel, and I assume they know that's okay. But I just went ahead and I left that PVC pipe in the yard, so I know exactly where it is because we they drove a pipe there when they built the pool.
That's it. That's good. You know who's not real good about that is tree people. Pool people are real good about pulling maps because they're about to dig. Tree people are real good about driving over your septic tank and crushing it because I don't think about it in the slightest. Yes, something that you just pointed out there is really important to note. There is definitely a conversation that happens with a building or a property developer when they're getting ready to size the lots, because in Georgia now, when you build or develop a property that has septic, you have to accommodate for an entire other area for replacing the drain field. And the reason for that is because septic systems have a finite lifespan. What did you tell me was the average age the septic system's been in the ground in Georgia?
Sure, I'm just going to throw the numbers out for the benefit of everybody listening to the presentation. I asked ChatGPT to give me some statistics about septic in Georgia. Your number had 37. ChatGPT told me 40% of all homes in Georgia have septic, and that percentage goes higher up the further you are from the center of a major city. The average age of a septic tank in Georgia is over 20 years, and there are over 1.4 million septic tanks in use in the state of Georgia. Those were the three factoids I pulled out of ChatGPT.
That's great. All those numbers are exactly consistent with my experience. Septic systems in Georgia are, even though they're installing more and more every day, if you look at the home and it was built in the 70s and it's on septic, it's probably still got that 1970s septic system in it. And septic systems are designed to last between 30 and 50 years. I routinely see them lasting a lot longer than that. But when they do eventually fail, people can't really be all that upset about it because you got 60, 70 years out of this thing. It was only supposed to, last one lifetime. You've got three lifetimes out of it. At some point, it has to be replaced. The septic tanks that are concrete in the ground, the guy that makes them around here, his name is Phil McDaniel. Most people get their septic tanks from McDaniel Concrete. And he told me a long time ago, Rob, there's two types of concrete in this world, concrete which has cracked and concrete which will crack. And so if you've got a concrete septic tank in your yard, if it's the style that has those big lids which can fall in, that's something just to be advised of and be informed about. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all bad news. But before you become the owner of a situation, you need to know what the situation is. We look here. So here's a couple different versions of that same map. This one's from Cherokee County. I love Cherokee counties because they draw on the left-hand side what they think is going to happen, and that's just always adorable because they don't know. On the right-hand side is what actually happened. And so I don't know why they include this left-hand side at all. It just confuses people. Trust me, when we're installing it, we're going to show you what has to happen. There's only typically one way things are going to go in according to the lay of the land. And so you have to have an absolute PhD in chicken scratch to be able to interpret this. But you can see this right here. I'm circling with my mouse. It says repair area in Dr. writing. It says repair area. So they definitely want you to have that assigned before they're going to give you a permit to do anything. Here's one from the 1967, and you can see that it bears no relationship to anything that would make any sense at all. Here's the septic tank. Here's a distribution box. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 100-foot lengths of drain field. It's a 4-bedroom house. And so you can see all the math that used to be done about the concrete pipe that they used to assemble this in 1967. And so I definitely see all of the different types of repair permits. I included this one because it made me laugh. It's not because it's a funny picture or funny document, but when they're out there making this stuff, it's dirty and muddy. And if they got mud on their paper, it gets scanned in just like that. And so my dad one time told me I ought to put on my business card an actual printed version of a dirty thumbprint. Because my dad's pretty funny. So once we come out to the property to do a septic inspection, we have that map in our hand that shows where everything is. I find the septic tank with the most high-tech device you've ever seen, which is just a sharp metal stick that is completely analog. It's not digital at all. It just tells me where the concrete and the rocks are in the ground. But I use spray paint to outline what the edge and perimeter of the actual septic tank is. I use spray paint to draw in where the pipes are at. And then I make a video while I'm standing right next to the septic tank that says, hey, this is Rob with Septic Router. I'm performing the septic inspection today in Woodstock, Georgia. I have the septic tank outlined in green. I have the piping illustrated in pink. And in that area over there, that's where the drain field is. It's 36 inches deep on average. Cannot touch it with my tool, but I can tell you this is where it is. This is how much. This is how deep. This is when it was installed. This is what it's made out of. Unless there's been something done that the county doesn't have record of, this is what you're going to have in the ground. And I do everything when I'm out on site with my phone in my hand like this, because I am making a video of every step along the way. It is so challenging as a agent or as a broker to try and relay things to your clients that are really not even something that you are an expert in, and they're going to start asking you questions like you are the expert. And I get it. Like I don't like doing things like that either. And so I make your job really, really easy. I make the video. I talk. I can talk. I talk exhaustively, like I like the sound of my own voice. Once I do the video that's preliminary, then we actually excavate what we need to get into the septic tank, and it's the exact same amount of excavation that's required for a pumping. And so if you've ever had it pumped or ever wanted to see what it looked like, just like this, I don't actually pump the septic tank as part of the buyer's inspection. It's not your septic tank. Don't pay to have it pumped until it is your house. Anything in the world could fall through, and then you're out another whole bunch of money for pumping the septic tank. The inspection that we do for buyers is $299. And just like I wouldn't, as a seller, if I was selling a house, I would never have the first home inspector to come in be the buyer's home inspector. I would pay whatever it costs to have a home inspection done first so that I know what it's going to say. And if there's an opportunity to get something fixed, I can fix it. If I had a septic tank, I would never let the buyer's septic guy come in and be the first person to see it, because whatever they say, now it's part of the conversation. Um, of course, as a seller, you need to make sure that you're selling things that are in good working order, or at least you're documenting what the functionality is. But as if you're doing, if you're having a septic inspection done, as the buyer's coming in and their guy is telling you what's wrong, you have really no opportunity to negotiate with them to get it fixed at a more affordable price point for you. It's just whatever he says. And so I'm going to talk more about as a seller, but as a buyer, the inspection is $299. We don't pump the septic tank as part of that, but I document everything that you would want to know with the video camera in my hand. I describe how it works, what parts of it are working good, what parts of it are working bad. I can tell you if it needs to get pumped out. I can tell you, most importantly, I can tell you how well I think it's going to work for the needs that you are going to put on it. If the seller is having the septic tank pumped out or inspected or serviced or repaired as part of what the seller is doing, they are only going to have it certified, or the only opinion they're going to ask for is, how well has this been working for me? And as part of that septic pumping or inspection that the seller has done, they're going to have the septic tank pumped out and anything wrong that's very visible fixed, and that is going to hide any of the problems that might be evident for anybody that wants to have more usage done on the septic system. For example, little old man lives there. One guy uses $1 a month worth of water, but it's a 5-bedroom home because he likes living in a gigantic house. Well, he's not going to live in that gigantic house anymore. He wants the septic inspected. He wants it pumped out. He wants a letter saying it's in good working order. And when I get there for one person, I'm going to do whatever is necessary. I'm going to pump it out. I'm going to give him a report. I'm going to say if there's anything broken about it. But I have no idea who's going to buy this house. I have no idea if it's 10 people or one person that's going to move in. All I can tell you is it's been working for this guy. If I come in as the buyer's septic guy, I'm going to try and get something from the agent to tell me how many people are going to live in this house. And then I'm going to figure out how much consumption has been going through there based off of what I see in the septic tank. And I'm going to be able to weigh in for you on how do I think it's going to work for you. And that's a really big distinction, that as a buyer, you need to have your own guy come in and tell you that. You don't, even if the seller just told you, oh yeah, I had it pumped out. Yeah, I don't care. I'm going to still say, you can have it inspected all you want, and you have your home inspected too, and your roof and everything. I have my own guy come and take a look at it. And so as the buyer, you always want to have your own person tell you, how's this going to work for me and my family?
Now, how deep is the tank? We talked about the drain lines being 36 inches deep in gravel. Is the tank higher? Is the access lid closer to the ground than that? And
Boy,
how big is the
I
lid?
wish there was some like standard answer I could give you on that, because sometimes the septic tank is up against the house. It has to be 10 feet away. Sometimes the septic tank is up against the house and they put dirt on top of it to do their landscaping. And the drain field might only be 2 or 3 foot deep, and now the septic tank's 5 foot deep. People, as a rule, don't give any consideration to their septic tank at all, period, when they're doing any kind of additions like that they don't have to have a permit for. Like if you put a deck on there or a patio, they pave over it and deck over it all the time. A septic tank should really not be any deeper than 18 inches to 24 inches. And when I, as an installer, install them, they're pretty much however deep they're going to be. But the older the home is, the more variation there is to the lay of the land, the less the rules that I know apply. And so I do have a probe rod in my truck that I use to poke the ground to find where the septic tank is. And at first, when I'm first using it, it's all blue. It's painted blue, and only the part like kind of close to the tip gets the blue paint taken off of it. But the longer I use it, the more septic tanks I go to, eventually all the paint's all the way gone all the way to the very handle. And so most of them, 18 inches, 2 foot deep. Some of them 5, 6 foot deep. What makes the difference? Nothing that I could do.
Okay.
All right, so I've covered the recording of the video. Okay. We also, as part of the inspection process, provide a written document that outlines everything we see that goes as a companion to the video that we film. We get all that up back to the clients and agents and everybody involved within 24 hours. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about what I've said to you so far about the inspection process, what I might find inside of a septic tank, what I might be looking for?
You know, you're getting to it now about scheduling the inspection, and you want to inspect the tank. You use your metal rod and find the boundaries, the location of the tank. You figure out where the lid is, and it seems like that's got to be a bit of a challenge. I know where the tank is. Where's the lid? You dig down, you open the lid, and uh, okay, it's a hole in the ground with some nasty water in it. The only thing I've picked up is you're looking for the presence of a baffle to keep out the solids from entering the drain lines. Beyond that, maybe how high is the water level? Is it above the level of the drain lines, implying it's not draining fast enough? Or um,
Absolutely.
what are you looking for when you're doing an
Sure.
inspection?
So the first thing I do, like I said, is I identify where are the components, then I measure how deep they are, then I expose the components that are necessary to do the inspection. As part of the inspection, I'm looking at a couple of different things. The first thing that I note is how much solid material is in the septic tank and whether or not it really needs to get pumped out. About half of them that I go to, they had it pumped last year. They didn't have it thoroughly inspected, but they just had it pumped out last year. And I routinely see people that don't have their septic tank pumped out but every 10 years. And so 1 year's worth of consumption, I typically say I wouldn't pay to have this pumped again. It's obviously just got done kind of recently, and there's a lot of life left on this cycle before you do that again. But I'm looking at the pipe that connects the home to the septic tank. Oftentimes I'll have somebody flush a toilet inside, and as opposed to a sewer line that can go hundreds of feet from the house all the way to the street, a pipe that connects the home to the septic tank is generally no more than 10, 12, 15 feet, the absolute max. And so if I was getting ready to buy or sell a home that was on sewer, I would definitely pay to have a sewer scope done, because with all of that pipe in the yard, it can definitely be doing like this business for a long time, and that's bad. But if I'm standing there and I'm looking in the face of a pipe and it's only a dozen feet to the house, someone will flush a toilet inside. I can measure the water coming out and tell you if there's any problem with that pipe. And the problems that can exist include the pipe being broken, the pipe being sagged, the pipe being intruded by roots. And so I can tell you an awful lot. And that's part of, if there's somebody inside and I can give them to flush a toilet, I'll make a video of that as well. I document what the water level is now, but I document what the water level is according to history, because the contents of the tank as they move up and down according to the water level will leave evidence that's on the sides of the tank and on the tops of the baffles. What I mean by that is, and this is something that I document for people all the time. I open up the septic tank, the water level is at operational level. Do I believe that the tank is functioning normally? Well, if I look on top of the baffle, which is way above the water line, and there's all kinds of human waste and toilet paper on top of it, none of that stuff jumped up from the water on top of that baffle. The only time that would ever happen is if the water level went all the way to the top and all those contents spread out. And then when the water level went down, those solid contents were left deposited up on top of those things. And boy, isn't that useful to know. That's really useful to know, because what that's telling me is at times of high consumption or when it's raining outside, this system is not working good. And that's what causes things to back up in the house, is that same solid material being up in the pipe. And when the water level goes down, it sticks in the pipe and causes clogs. And so that's what I call historic evidence of the septic tank not working so good. And again, 9 out of 10 situations that I help people with is definitely where a buyer called me and asked me to do that inspection for them, and I was the first person to see that septic tank in years, decades. If you're a seller you definitely want to have the septic tank open. You definitely want to have a septic inspection performed. You want to know first, is this thing like not draining water when it's supposed to? Because there are things that can be done about that. There are, if it's broken, if the pipe that leaves the septic tank to connect to the drain field is broken, if there's part of the drain field that's not receiving water, there are definitely ways that we can address that and have it fixed so that when the buyer's septic guy comes and opens the lid, he doesn't say, "Oh, look how bad this is. Look how the stuff's sitting up on top of the baffles." You have an opportunity to fix it so that it's not a problem, and then straighten it up so that anybody that would come after that doesn't have all this evidence of how things weren't working. Unfortunately, what typically happens in these situations is not that. The seller comes and they say, "I want you to pump the septic tank." And the septic guy goes, "Okay, well, the baffle is missing and the drain field is working slow sometimes." And what does the seller say? "I don't care at all. Pump it out, replace the baffle, tell me it's working just fine right now." And if you pump it out and replace the baffle, it's working just fine right now. Has it been working historically well? That's not the question I was asked to answer, and it's not the question I'm being asked to provide in this documentation. And that's how sellers get sued, is because they will hide problems. They'll clean it up. They'll have a septic guy come in there and do the bare minimum to say it's working okay right now. And the minute they leave out and someone starts actually using it, it doesn't work very good anymore. And so that's why I am reluctant to be a seller's septic guy, because I don't want my name on a forged document, which I would have perjured myself basically by saying like, "Yeah, it's working just fine." Anything I give somebody as documentation is honest and accurate. If it's working great, it's working great. If it's not working great, you need to know about that. I'm not going to be part of your lawsuit. And so I don't end up being the seller's guy all that often because, again, they've been ignoring the septic system. I'm only telling you what I see, and I can prove it with this video camera in my hand. There's really not a lot you can say about, "Oh, no, it's not." Well, yes, it is. Here's the evidence right here. You can host anybody else you want to, send them my video, and they're going to have to tell you the same thing because it's irrefutable. That being said, most of the time when sellers, again, they would rather have a buyer's guy come in there and not tell them, "Hey, this is messed up and I can fix it." Because if I'm a buyer's agent, I can't say that. If I'm a buyer's agent, all I can tell you is it's not working. And if I'm working against a deadline and I'm trying to submit stuff to get a deal closed, the repairs that are as open to me as an option are typically only replacement options because there's not weeks to figure out, there's not a lot of time to get other experts out there. If you are the buyer's agent and I open up a septic tank and there are things about it that are really, really broken, it's not typically a conversation about like, "Hey, let's get this thing fixed." It's, "This is really broken and the only thing I can get a permit for right now is replacing these things." And that can be very expensive. And so oftentimes sellers get handed an estimate for full system replacements that they could have easily avoided for themselves if they had taken an opportunity to learn more about the situation that was going on at their house before somebody documented it and submitted documents to everybody in the world that's paying attention. And so, again, if you're a seller, definitely have these things done. But it would be a surprise to me if that's the way things go very, very often. If you are upgrading things to do with the septic, you definitely want to do it with a repair permit. You definitely want to have that stuff documented so that the county can come in and draw a new map. That new map that the county draws makes your home worth more money. If you've got stuff that you can document was repaired, installed, improved, upgraded, replaced, and the county came out and drew a new map, that is proof that you have done those things, and it's not up for debate. I got these things done. So frequently, though, people do not want to go through the permitting process, and it can be a very irritating thing to find out after you buy the house that they didn't go through the process. All this stuff is just kind of rehashing the septic inspection process.
That prior slide was not what it looked like, was it?
Now,
Looked like a full septic backup into a house.
I try and gloss through some of those a little faster before lunch.
Whew.
I'll go back. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So, oftentimes people find out as they're living in a home that they have a problem with their septic tank like that. And what that is, again, this is a picture I took. This is where somebody had a septic system that services the entire house, including the basement, but they don't ever go in the basement. And so septic tank was backed up and they didn't know about it for weeks because they never go in the basement. But anything that goes down a drain in the house is connected to every other drain. And so they continued to use the bathroom, they continued to use all the facilities upstairs. And because water couldn't get into the septic tank, it just got up underneath their toilet and flooded their basement like this. That's a homeowner's insurance
Mm,
claim, by the way. That's really yucky. And so the homeowner's insurance will do nothing about the septic tank, but they will definitely handle everything that got ruined inside.
mm.
Any other questions for me on that?
No, that is as bad as it looks.
That's as bad as it looks. Um, So we are very sensitive to the timelines that agents work under. I can get stuff done in days that other people can't get it done in months. We can get a hold of the county. Like you said, we get the maps back in just a couple of minutes. We can typically get out to your property within 24 hours, if not 48 hours. But we know that when you're in due diligence, it's stressful. You want to get these reports back as soon as possible. And so we work as closely with your schedule as we possibly can because we're an important part of what you're doing. We don't want to slow the process down. Something that we do that is different than a home inspector, which I've never seen a home inspector that's also a contractor that is willing to give you pricing for fixing stuff. Maybe some of them do, but I've never worked with one. I am a contractor. I am authorized to inspect septic systems and I'm authorized to provide an estimate. And so whenever I provide the report, if there's anything that it needs at all, you're going to get an estimate that you can use in your process of closing on the house, however which way you want to. So once you get my report, you're set to go. You've got the report, you've got the video where I very articulately explain everything that you guys would want to have explained to your client. Let me tell you, you're talking about doing stuff during COVID, and that's very similar to the experience that I had when I started doing these video inspections, which I'm going to show you one or two of them so you see what it looks like. But I was out at somebody's house. They were just having a septic issue. It was cold outside. They didn't want to be outside by the septic tank. They said, "Is there anything you can do to just let me know what's going on?" I was like, "Well, it's really hard to just tell you. Why don't I show you?" So I made the little video. I texted it to him inside. He came out then. He says, "Hey, meet me around the front." He says, that was great. I really appreciated the level of detail that you went into without too much detail, killing me with it. He goes, but I'm a realtor, as an agent, I'm always having to explain to my clients things that are just really above my pay grade when it comes to septic. I would love it if I could hire you to come out and make the same video and attach it to the inspection file. I said, sir, yes, sir. That's what we're here for. So ever since then, I send the videos out. Everybody loves it. It's the number one thing that we can do to make it so that you guys have an easy time with any of this stuff. All right. Sometimes we fix problems before closing. Sometimes we don't. It's sometimes the mortgage company is the driving factor behind that because if the septic system isn't working and they've got some kind of FHA loan, it's very possible that we have to get it, whatever's wrong with it, fixed, inspected, approved, and covered back up before closing. And so I mention that because we're very sensitive to those needs and we'll do whatever we need to do to make all that stuff work for you guys. We know that you guys are on a schedule, a timeline, and we're not here to screw it up. If you don't mind, I'm going to show you what a video looks like, and then we're going to kind of get to the end of it. But I have to share that screen. Give me 1 second.
Hey, it's Rob with Septic. We're on a
You guys see my video?
Yes. Mhm.
property in Hiram right now. Septic tank. I gotta tell you guys, it looks like it's in great shape. The pipe comes out of the house, makes a turn into the septic tank. You can see the septic tank outlined in green here. You guys have both a modern style septic tank that has a smaller lids, and somebody has conveniently stuck these access ports on there. Pipe starts there and finishes in the septic tank, the baffles.
I'm just going to mention real quick, we do not put all these little background noises and little graphics on all this stuff. My wife is also a video editor, and she dressed this up really good for this particular presentation. When we're doing it, it's just me talking.
Tank, the septic tank, it really needs to get pumped out. It looks like it's never been pumped out, and as I'm poking on this, you can see just how much like solid sludge there is in this tank. It's just feet of it. And so this is one where, after having been pumped out for several decades, it's definitely going to be a challenge to get that taken care of. The septic tank is completely overfull. There's no inspecting either the inlet or the outlet pipe because water's all up to the very top. And you can see as they used water, that it goes up over the top of that. It's solid stick to inside of the riser here. You can see evidence that solid material is backing up into this pipe. Homeowners told me they've had it pumped out twice in the past year. If I open it up, I should be seeing water all the way up to that white line right there on the side of the baffle. That would indicate that the system is operating normally. Water enters the septic tank, it's filtered by the septic tank, and then leaves to go up in the drain field. That being said, there's significantly less water than that in the septic tank. There is a really, really noticeable area of deterioration right here at the top of the septic tank, to where the thing is already starting to fall in. Well, that's some fun news about this one. You can see the inlet pipe all the way to there. It's from the septic tank, yes. That's something I can really get to. A large 1,500-gallon septic tank. I just got done digging it up, and the potential buyer has gone inside and flushed the toilet twice, and absolutely nothing is coming out through that pipe there it is in. You can see how exposed the gravel is and how the inlet baffle isn't even there. It's missing completely. It is rotten and fallen off. The septic tank extends all the way underneath this piece of sidewalk, and so it doesn't look to me like this side has been dug up ever, or at least is not as, since the sidewalk was put down. And there's a real distinct O in the concrete of this tank. You can see how it kind of has a smile like this. That is indicating that this wall has deteriorated to the point where it's trying to fall in. Everything that's in this septic tank that's made out of concrete is exposed to an acid that is always working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to undermine the integrity of this concrete. As I get the septic tank open, I don't have the best of news. The concrete itself right through here is still pretty hard, but all of this stuff right here, the tree roots and all the rot, as I poke the sides, there is no wall left at all. The septic tank is completely disintegrated. That should be concrete, and I'm pushing right through it. It's concrete right here, but all of this down here was just turned to mush. There's no side of the septic tank at all. All right, so let me share my other screen again. So I'm gonna just let this go. The style of septic tank that you just saw me look in there over and over again is the style that has 4 gigantic lids that comprise the entire top of the septic tank, and there's no center support structure to that style. The only thing keeping the lid up out of the bottom of the septic tank is that real thin, 2.5, 3 inches wide band of concrete that goes, it's basically the top of the bowl of the tank. The septic tank's a big bowl like this. It's rectangle. The lids go on top. Each one of them is like 400 pounds. And the only thing that they're resting on is the top of that concrete septic tank. And Phil told me something, McDaniel, about the septic tanks that crack and the septic tanks that will crack. But something that I've seen time and time again is a chemical process that takes place in the septic tank. The gas that the bacteria create when they're breaking down the sewage, they mix with the water in the tank and on the exposed surfaces to form an acid. The acid eats the glue away from the concrete. It eats the cement out. And
after decades of being in the ground subjected to that kind of corrosion, sometimes all you're left with is just kind of the space where the septic tank used to be. The rest of it's all crumbled and fallen away. And so I was at a presentation that somebody had done some little research before I got there. It was Keller Williams last week, and the managing broker, team leader, whatever. He was giving a presentation. He goes, "Look, I looked this up on Chat GPT. This was horrifying to me." I said, "What'd you find out?" He goes, "Last year in the state of Ohio, 11 children drowned in septic tanks." I was shocked by that. I didn't do that research. I'm just telling you what this guy told me. But if any children died in the septic tank and it didn't make national news, I was shocked to have a bunch of them die and not make national news. It's terrifying, but it's not, when I think about it, all that surprising. People ignore these things for decades. There's nothing keeping them from falling apart. And so from time and time and time after time and time and time, I go to people's houses and I see the same exact thing, which is these same style of septic tanks that have the potential to cave in, ultimately fulfilling their destiny to cave in. And so I don't want anybody to buy a home and have a potential liability like this. Forget water backing up in your house. Forget it contaminating the creek down the road or getting on your neighbor's yard. The last thing I want to have happen is one of these gigantic lids to have a big crack in it. You guys have no idea the house sale goes through, and they're driving their much, much bigger and much nicer lawnmower that they brought with them from the last house over this thing and had it go to the bottom. And so it is really a personal passion of mine to help people avoid having that kind of thing happen in their lives. And so I I I don't want I never want to wreck a deal. That's not my intention. My intention is not to go out there and say everything's wrong and give you a big bill that needs to get paid in order to close the house. My only intention is to be a resource for you so that you make an educated decision with all of the facts available to you that I can give you. I don't want to wreck your deal. I don't. But if your deal gets wrecked over this, like what you were telling me, Doug, that septic is the number one thing that gets deals wrecked, but it's also the number one thing that gets sellers sued after the deal. I would much rather a deal fall apart than you guys lose a client. Because when I'm standing out there as a complete independent third party, I never met you, I never met your client. All I got called out there was as a septic guy to diagnose why this septic tank issue is happening after you just moved in. And I tell them it's because your realtor should have gotten this for you and they didn't. That's, I don't think you're going to have that as a client anymore. Not that I want that to happen, but I want you to, when you close on deals, that to be the right deal for everybody. And I don't want that to be a sore sticking point for everybody later on. And so it is imperative that either buyer or seller, you kind of tackle this problem before you get to the very finish line, and it becomes the kind of thing that wrecks a deal and keeps you from closing. So anything you need, just give me a holler. You can send me a text. You can call my office phone number anytime you want to, 678-744-7878. Go to septicrouter.com. I'm just always wanting to consult with people on what needs to happen before things kind of get out of control. And my wife, again, she's a video editor. She has done a good job with this little commercial. I'm going to leave you guys with it. Give me a second. That's for our Instagram there. And
I think we lost your video.
that's okay. The video, it was over with. I'm back to the PowerPoint now, just to give you guys the final opportunity to see our beautiful capital city of Atlanta and Doug's hometown of Stone Mountain there. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer anything else you got.
No, it was super useful.
Cool. Is there anything I didn't get to during the presentation you think I need to cover for agents or anybody?
No, I think the most important thing was buyer's inspection and how you go about that and not needing to pump the tank out in
Correct.
order to ascertain its health and viability and structural integrity. Well worth $300 if we're already paying X amount for an inspection and we're serious about this and and if something is discovered, look, real estate, I mean, everything's fixable, everything
Yep,
with time
everything.
and money,
As
and
long
if a
as you know who
seller,
to call and you can be confident about it, it'll
yeah,
fly.
yeah. And then if a seller's going to be motivated to repair or make an adjustment on something, this is probably going to be it because whoever comes in next is going to deal with the exact same problem if
I
there
mean,
is a
once it's on
problem.
the disclosure forms, it's on the disclosure forms, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, I'm always here. You can call my phone. I recommend calling the hotline first versus calling my cell phone here because look at what I've been doing with my cell phone for the last hour and a half, nothing. And so that being said, there's always somebody there. Take a phone call at my office. My office is located, I'll just give you guys a frame of reference. I am at 4355 Shallowford Industrial Parkway, which is off of Canton Road or Canton Highway, just south of Woodstock. If you guys ever need anything at all, I'm really close to everything and can be there just as rapidly as you need me to. Love to come by your offices, bring lunch, bring breakfast, be a part of the team.
Rob, thank you again for joining us today. I did have just one quick question from something you mentioned. Uh,
Sure.
One of the byproducts of the bacteriological process in a septic tank is production of gas. Is
Mhm.
there a vent of some sort that vents gas out of a tank, or where does the gas that's produced go?
Beautiful question. So if you are standing near a home, usually behind a home, and you look up through the ceiling or the roof, you're going to see PVC pipes sticking up through the roof. Some of them are fairly small diameter, some of them are pretty big diameter. And you might say to yourself, gosh, what's all that for? That is the ventilation system for the plumbing in the home. Whenever you flush the toilet, if there's not a place for the air that's in the pipe to go, it'll become vapor locked and go bloop, 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 bloop for anything you try and do. With those vents in the roof, that allows the air to get out and it allows sometimes things to get in. I've seen oftentimes if someone's having a glug 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 and it's not related to the septic tank, it's because leaves or a squirrel has put a nest down one of those roof vents. But it also allows the type of insects that thrive in septic tanks to enter a septic tank because once it goes, a little fly or whatever, call them sewer flies, once this little sewer fly goes down through the roof vent because it can smell the septic, it'll fly all the way into your septic tank. And so when I open the lids up, they're full of little flies. People are shocked. What are all those little flies? They're the flies that live in septic tanks. So the bacteria inside the septic tank is largely anaerobic, which means they thrive in an environment that is deficient of oxygen. All the water that's in your septic tank, all of the big concrete box that's underground, all of the water that's in your drain field, all that water definitely has bacteria in it. But since there's no oxygen in it being injected into it or contributed in any way, it's all going to be oxygen depleted. And so the bacteria there thrive in what you would call an oxygen deficient environment, much like those bacteria that live at the very bottom of the ocean, live near those volcano vents. The bacteria, as they eat the contaminants or the biological parts of the sewage, they're exhaling hydrogen sulfide gas. The septic tank and its contents are about 53, 54, 55, all the way up to maybe 58 degrees all year long. Doesn't get hot, doesn't get real cold. It's very constant. As water comes down the drain from your washing machine, it's hot. From your shower, it's hot. From anything that's hot, it causes condensation droplets to form above that water level on the exposed parts of the concrete. You've got wet concrete, you've got hydrogen sulfide gas bouncing around. It meets that water that's on the concrete and bonds to form an aqueous solution called hydrosulfuric acid. That's what ends up eating the concrete, the cement out of the concrete because the cement part's very, very alkaline. It's very, very basic. And so it doesn't take much of a strong acid at all to eat that away. But to answer your question specifically, there is no ventilation system other than the roof vents in the house for the septic tank or septic system. And as a consequence of the molecular structure of hydrosulfuric gas, it is denser or more heavy than oxygen. And so the only time it's ever allowed out of the septic tank is when I open the lids up. The rest of the time, that hydrogen sulfide gas is there. It's bumping around. It's making more hydrosulfuric acid. It is causing damage to the septic system, even if it's gradual, even if it's minimal. There is not a practical method to vent the septic tank or the septic system that doesn't contaminate your backyard with stinky air. And every time someone has wanted me to do that, they ultimately wanted me to change it back because it's just important to have the septic tank looked at every couple of years, make sure that nothing's falling apart, make sure that everything is still intact. And if it's not, replace it with plastic. Everything that I replace concrete with now is plastic because plastic is not susceptible to deterioration by an acid. If you went to the store and bought acid, they'd sell it to you in a plastic jug.
Mm. All right. Well, thank you. So I think the short answer is it just goes through the plumbing the plumbing venting anyway.
That's
If
right.
there were any gas, there is a accommodation for that in the plumbing system for air to vent out of the drain system.
That's right.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I love them. I love answering questions. I wish I could add more.
If not, I'd like to end by thanking Rob Simmons with Septic Rooter for being our guest speaker today on our Business Builder Speaker Series. I trust you've taken away some good knowledge about things that you need to know as an agent and consider when you're working with homes that have a septic. We've spoken about the importance of getting a copy of the septic report from the county showing the presence or absence of a tank and the location and things that understand what a septic inspection can do for you in terms of determining the condition of the property and understanding some of the common problems that might occur in septic tanks. Rob, thanks again for your expertise and for your time today. And to our guests today, thanks for joining us. I trust you've taken away some good information. We look forward to having you back next month, June 17th, with Scott Trowbridge from Atlanta Basement Systems on Foundation Fears to Closing Cheers. And we will see you on next month's episode. Thanks again.